Is it okay to cry? In this video, we're going to talk about crying, when it's okay, when it's not helpful, and why the full story matters more than you think. The adult lessons nobody prepared you for. Have you ever wondered why crying feels healing in some moments and embarrassing and damaging in others? This isn't a motivational speech. This isn't a man up talk. And this isn't a message for you to cry whenever you want all the time. Wah, 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 wah. This is human behavior breakdown, emotionally, socially, and biologically. First, we have to acknowledge something important before we move further. There are just some moments in life that no unspoken rules apply. Let's name a couple examples clearly. The sudden death of a family member, of a close friend, or of a pet. Other clear examples are a sudden breakup, a sudden injury, a sudden financial loss, sudden material loss, such as a home. Another example is a loss, something that you spent years on, something that could have changed your life, such as an elite sports competition. Have you noticed how none of those examples require an explanation? Crying isn't a weakness, it's a release. And there is nobody that gets to police your emotions in real-time trauma. Crying when something bad happens right away makes sense. You're acting to real-time pain. But if crying becomes your default mode to everything, and it's something that you do on and on and on, that isn't a reaction anymore. That is a habit. That is a pattern that's forming. Patterns are not shameful, but they are something that you need to be aware of. Let's talk about why humans cry in the first place. If crying were useless, why would evolution keep it? From a biological standpoint, let's cover a few things. Emotional crying releases oxytocin and also endorphins. These are chemicals that reduce pain and create calm. Crying also activates the parasympathetic nervous system, the body's rest and restore mode. It helps to regulate the heart, breathing, and emotional overload. In simple terms, crying tells your body it is safe to let go. Have you noticed how exhausted but lighter you feel after you really cry? It's not imagination, it's psychology. Emotion, it's energy. And if you don't release that energy, it's stored. It doesn't disappear. Those stored emotions, they surface. When you don't release it, it doesn't disappear. It's stored. They show up as irritability, as chronic tension, shutdown, numbness, random emotional outbursts. Have you ever snapped, gone crazy, 0 to 100 over something that was so small and wondered to yourself, where did that come from? That wasn't the moment. You know what that was? That was unpaid emotional debt. At some point, you're going to have to figure out where all this emotional debt comes from, and you're going to have to address it. You can't keep crying over it. But here's the part that people like to avoid. The part that is either ignored or oversimplified. Crying has limits. Not moral limits, but situational limits. There is a time and there is a place for it. Because is it really healthy for you if it harms you socially and professionally? You cannot cry everywhere. Not because crying is wrong, but because environments are different. And what do I mean by that? These places are mixed emotional environments, such as work, school, and public spaces. All right, let's be real about this. People in those places do not share emotional investment in you. They do not know the full story behind your pain, and they are not responsible for your healing. As a reminder, if it's not sudden trauma, sudden pain, sudden loss, and you're just crying, you put people in an uncomfortable situation. Why would vulnerability be safe in a room that never agreed to hold it? Think about that. Such as work. When you cry in the wrong places, you're not met with care, you're met with confusion, discomfort, judgment, misinterpretation. And it's a butterfly effect. Your actions now creates secondary pain later.
Why am I not good for the job? Why am I being overlooked? I put in my time.
Well, as far as what people can see, as far as what your supervisors can see, you are an emotional wreck. And that is not worth investing in. But that is not your supervisor's fault. That is not the fault of the people around you. That is you, unable to address the emotional internal pain that you keep repeating, which activates cry mode. There are places where crying works with you, places that share emotional understanding with trusted friends, family members, your partner, therapy, spiritual places like church, or maybe even private solitude. And why do these work? Because they are structured emotional environments. Have you ever cried before and thought to yourself, why do I feel safe crying with certain people and not with others? Because I know I have. And when I'm surrounded by the right friends, I will emotionally release a flood of tears. But I know I'm with people who are not going to judge me, who are not going to. I'm just with people who care, and I know that they care. So I feel comfortable enough to let go. Because with them, my nervous system knows that they are safe. I know what to expect. It's not weakness, it's intelligence. Now let's address something uncomfortable. If someone is crying, who are we to tell them to stop? Instead, we can be present, we can listen, we can guide them to settle down and breathe, not to make them feel worse. And it's fair if you don't want to be that person either. Just leave the space, leave the room. I know it's not your responsibility, but clearly the person in front of you who is crying is not capable of making that decision. You are. Crying is just a form of honesty that they are not comfortable with. Again, it's a mixed environment, mixed emotions, mixed upbringings, mixed people. It's just how life is, man. We're all different. You don't have to like somebody crying. You don't have to fix it. You don't have to understand it. You just have to let it exist. Crying is not manipulation by default. It's often just release. So let's bring it all together. Your body is settling. Your emotions, they're unloading, and your mind is finding balance again. But remember, it is your responsibility to cry in places and with people that make you feel safe. Crying helps you to empty the cup. It does not refill it. You still need to have reflection, create boundaries with others or with yourself, self-awareness, which leads to action, then with action, recovery routines. Because crying is a reset. Crying is not the solution. It's okay to be intentional with when and where and with whom you decide to share that with. Because maturity isn't suppressing emotions, and maturity isn't emotional chaos either. Ask yourself this question. What if emotional strength isn't about crying, but it's about understanding your emotions well enough to guide them? That's not weakness. That is you mastering who you are inside and out.